Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back. Today's Daf is Kesubos Samach Daled. We are holding at the 7th line from the top of the Amud. In yesterday's Daf, we learned about a moired or a moiredis. He is not living up to his obligations, or she, as a wife, is not living up to her obligations. In her case, she's considered moiredis, rebelling in him, in which case we penalize her by deducting a set amount per week from her Kesuba payment. Whereas if he is the moired, if he is rebelling against her, he is the one at fault, then we actually add to her potential Kesuba payout. Says the Gemara, Amar Av Tuvi Bar Kisna, Amar Shemuel. Koisvin Igeras Merid, the Bezdin will get involved and will actually draft a Igeras Merid, a document indicating that somebody is not living up to their obligations, in which case they can go ahead and implement this system of deducting or adding to the ksuba. We do that. We write an igeras mered al arusa, even if she is merely engaged, and for instance is not willing to marry. So you have an engaged woman who doesn't want to follow through with the marriage, and of course, speaking, the wedding date has already arrived. It's already 12 months since they engaged. So we get involved and we start applying this procedure. But if she's a yivam, awaiting a yivam by the brother-in-law, and somebody is not living up to their obligations, we do not get involved. We do not issue an igeras mered to indicate that somebody should be called to task. We differentiate between an arusa, an engaged woman, where we step in and interfere, but by shemeres yavam we keep out. Meisvei, we have a brisa which indicates that in all cases we do get involved. Achas li arusa, whether she's engaged, unesua, or she's married and unwilling to interact with her husband, afilu nida, afilu choyle, even she's nida or unwell, and she refuses to live up to her obligations. Afilu shemeres yavam. Here's the punchline: a shemeres yavam as well is called to task. As a kasha on Shmuel, who tells us that by a shemeres yavam we leave it alone. Like kasha, the answer is like this: we're going to have 3 attempts at differentiating and reconciling the apparent contradiction between Shmuel, who seems to say that by shemeres yavam we keep to our own, we don't interfere, and the brisa which indicates that even a shemeres yavam is considered a moiredis. Like kasha, the answer is like this: Kon shetavahu, depends who's asking. If there is a yavam and yivam and he wants to proceed and she's unwilling, then we get involved. Kon shetavahi, but if she's the one asking to proceed, we don't get involved. The Amar of Tachlifa bar Abimi Amar Shmuel. Here is Shmuel himself telling us this very distinction between him and her. Tavahu, if he's the one asking, Niskokan lo, we get involved and support his claim. Tavahi, but if she's the one asking, Ein Niskokan lo, we don't get involved to back up her demands. And the Gemara doesn't yet explain the difference between one and the other. Rashi brings the Gemara later. We'll say, well, the Isha is not really mitzvah. She doesn't have the mitzvah of Pirya Verivya. So if she's the one asking, that's different than when he's asking because he is driven by his obligation, which doesn't apply to her. Okay, but Mayo Kimta, Lahad Shmuel. So how are you interpreting Shmuel's halacha? Shmuel, who tells us that by shemeres yavam, who wishes to proceed with yivam, we don't get involved. Bishetavahi. She's the one asking, right? And Shmuel makes that distinction. Well, if she's an arusa asking for marriage, then we help her out. But if she's merely a shemeres yavam, we don't get involved. Well, then the lashon of Shmuel is not really matching the halacha. Hi koisvin igeres mered al arusa. Instead of Shmuel saying we issue this document against the arusa, it would sound almost like she's on the defensive. He's the one asking and she's refusing. La arusa mibayle. Instead, Shmuel should say we issue the igeres mered on behalf of the arusa. If Shmuel is speaking, in fact, in a case where she is the one asking to proceed. Halei kasha, it's not a kasha. Tni la arusa, let's revise. You write the igeres for the arusa. Bottom line is, if they're engaged, then it doesn't matter whether he's asking or she's asking. They both have a full right to proceed, and if somebody is giving a hard time, they're at fault and called to task. What if it's merely shemer siyavam? They're not really engaged. There's a mitzvah siyabam that must be done. If he's asking for it, fine. Then we support him. But if she's asking, we'll leave it at bay. What's the difference? Asks the Gemara, Maishna shemer siyavam. Deloy. Why then is it that by shemer siyavam, who would like to have yibam, we just leave it alone? Because we tell her, we respond to her by saying, Zil, go away, let mifkadas. You're not really commanded, you don't have a mitzvah, so it's not your business. Well then, Arusa Nami, even if she's an engaged woman, there as well. She wants to marry, but it's not a chiyuv, you don't have a mitzvah. Nami, name Allah, Zil, let mifkadas. You should tell her the same thing, you don't have a mitzvah, you can't enforce it on the chasen. Ela beba machmas tana. Oh. Apparently, the reason why we support the Arusa in her claim and her request and her quest to marry is because she's claiming something different, unrelated to the mitzvah. I want a descendant. I want somebody to help me in my old age. The Amr, she says, "Ba'ina chutra liyad." I need a staff, a stick for my hand, umar lekvur, and a shovel for burial. Meaning, I need a kid to take care of me throughout old age and the kvura. So that's why we support her claim, unrelated to the mitzvah, simply for practical reasons. Well, if that's the case, let's say she's a Yavama, she can have the same exact claim. Skip the mitzvah, but I need a kid. She has a claim. So why would we differentiate between one and the other? Arusa we back up, and Shemer Yavam we don't? Why? Let's go back and make another attempt at answering that stira between Shmuel, who tells us that by the Shemer Yavam we don't issue Igeres Mered, and the Brisa, which indicates that we do. Both are speaking that he is the one asking to proceed. For like Kasha, the answer is like this. Depends what he's asking to do. Kan lachleitz. If he's asking for chalitza, he doesn't want to do yivam, wants to do chalitza. And she says, look, I'm only good for yivam. In this case, we get involved and we help him out. But V'kan liyavam. Shmuel is speaking when he's asking for yivam. He insists on yivam and she refuses. She's good for chalitza. She doesn't want yivam. Doesn't want to marry him. In this case, we don't get involved. Damar p'das or Rabbi Yehuda tava lachlis and skakenle. If he wants chalitza, fine. We support him all the way. Tava liyavim. If he insists on yivam, ein is skakenle. We don't get involved. And then we'll try to explain the difference between one and the other. What's the difference whether he's asking for this or for that? After all, he's trying to do the mitzvah. Why is it when he's asking for yibum, we don't support his claim? We tell him, look, Zil v'nasiv, it's to go find yourself another wife. You can't force her to do yibum with you. Well, then lachlitz nami, by chalitza as well. Namely, we'll tell him, Zil v'nasiv, it's zachriti. He wants to do chalitza. She refuses. The Brisa says we write an igeres mered. We put her in trouble. Why? Let's tell him. Zil v'nasiv it's sachri to go and find yourself another wife. Ella. Oh, so why not? Kivan the Amar, because he's responding to that by saying it's not going to work. Kivan the agida bi. Since she is bound to me, everybody knows. I have a yavam awaiting. My chalitza or yibam. Nobody's going to give me another wife. Nobody's going to get married with me. First, take care of your own business. Address the yivama, and then we'll see. We'll see further. Hachanami here as well. If he's insisting on yivam, kivan da agida bi. He wants yivam. He doesn't want to do chalitza. Rotesa says he doesn't want to pay out the the ksuba, and she's insisting no chalitza. So for him, that's not an option. So he's coming and saying to Bezdin, look, I want to do Yivam. Force her. After all, since she's bound to me right now, nobody's going to marry me. So what's the difference between this case and that? Elo. Here comes attempt number 3, which is the final pshat. Again, we had a kasha between Shmuel, who says we don't write an Igeris Mered by a Shemeres Yavam. We don't consider her a rebellious woman, and by the Brisa we see otherwise. Even a Shemeres Yavam who refuses to proceed with Yivam is considered a Moiredes. Elo Ida Vida Shetava Yavim, both are speaking that he's insisting on Yivam and she refuses. But like Kasha, the answer is like this. When do we help him? When don't we? Commissioner Rishoina, the Brisa that we help him is speaking according to the old version of the Mishnayos, where he can force his way into a Yibam. We support his quest to do Yibam. But Shmuel, who does not support his Yibam quest, is in line with Commissioner Achroina, the most recent version of the Mishnayos. Where do we have these two versions of Mishnayos? This non-mitzvahs Yibam, ideally, Yibam comes prior to Chalitza. That's the first priority, first choice. Take a look at the Psukim. It says, if he doesn't want to do Yibam, Chalitza is the second, best option. But mitzvahs Yibam kodemes. The mitzvahs Chalitza, you meant to take over your brother's life, perpetuate his memory, bring about descendants who carry his name, etc. So Yibam goes first. But Rishona, that's in the olden days when they were still Anoshim Ksherim, the Rashbam says, these are Ben Gershom, these are people of upstanding character. Shem Miskavran L'Shem Mitzvah, they were on a high level, that their kavanah, their intent was totally l'shem shamayim. So Yibam was recommended. But Achshav nowadays, this is the time of the Tanoim. Yuridas Hadoris. Their level of observance, of dveikus b'Hashem, of tzidkus, dropped. Achshav she'ein me'eskaven and l'shem mitzvah, now that they no longer have that purity of l'shem shamayim, l'shem mitzvah. They have they're motivated by other interests. Right? Taisus brings l'shem ishus, l'shem noi, beauty, marriage, other agendas. So now we no longer pursue Yibam, because remember, Yibam is to a relative, a sister-in-law, who is really an erva. And this Gemara is following Shittas Abu Shol. If Kavanah is not l'shem mitzvah, it's pretty bad. So now, what does Chachamim tell us? They switched the halacha. Amru, they concluded that mitzvahs chalitza kedemes mitzvahs Yibam. Today we recommend chalitza over Yibam. This way we're safe. So that provides an answer to the kasha. Shmuel, who says that a shemeres Yavam, who refuses to cooperate with the Yavam in terms of Yibam, that is reflective of Mishnah Achroina nowadays. We don't recommend Yibam. We certainly don't force the Yivama to go along with Yivam, since it isn't really recommended. The Brisa that we do support his quest is speaking in the old days. Yivam was a legitimate option, a preferred option, and therefore we back up his claim in his quest to do Yibam. Okay, now back to the Mishnah. You have a husband and wife, giving each other a hard time. He is distancing himself from her, or she from him. We call it a moired or a moiredes. They refuse to interact with each other, says the Mishnah. We penalize them. In his case, meaning she's giving him a hard time, we deduct. Deduct from what? From her future ksuba, potential ksuba payout. How much do we deduct? Tanakama says 7 dinar, 1 per day of the week, including Shabbos. Rabbi Yehuda says 7 tar pe'iken, which the Gemara will explain for us in a minute. Then in the end of the Mishnah, he is the murd. He's rebelling. He's not living up to his obligations. He's keeping from her. We add to her ksuba payout. How much? 3 dinar per week, which ends up being a half a dinar per day, counting only the weekdays. So we ignore the Shabbos. And once again, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's 3 tar pe'iken. Asks the Gemara, what is this? My tar pe'iken. What is this type of coin? Out of sheishes is stira. How much is the stira worth? Bekami is stira. Palga de zuz, that's half a regular zuz. Tanakama spoke about a zuz, which has 6 ma'is. Half of the zuz only has 3 ma'is. And that's the coin that Rabbi Yehuda is speaking about. We find the same in a brayso. Rabbi Yehuda shloisha tarpeikin. So if he's in trouble, if he's giving her a hard time, we deduct 3 tarpeikin per week. Remember, each tarpeik is 3 ma'is, shein teisha moin, which gives you a total of 9 ma per week, and divided into days, the 6 weekdays, you have ma v'chetil kol yoim. 6 into 9 is 1.5 per day. And we ignore the Shabbos. She doesn't get any credit for Shabbos. Why? Why is it that when he's in trouble, she's giving him a hard time? We deduct how much? 7 coins corresponding to the full week. 7 days of the week. Why is it that on his side, the Shabbos, we give him for Shabbos as well? Why is it that when she's in trouble, when we add to her ksuba, we don't add for Shabbos? The Shabbos. Answers the Gemara like this. When she's the one giving him a hard time, in which case we deduct from the ksuba, the mifchas kapachas, we're just trying to deduct from the ksuba, then we could do it for Shabbos as well. You know why? Lo mechzik is ha-Shabbos. It doesn't appear like he's really earning anything on Shabbos, which is, of course, is asur midrabanan. We're not meant to earn on Shabbos. Rashi says the gzeira might lead to a person getting involved in business construction, transactions and rentals, etc. One is not meant to earn schar Shabbos. So if you're just deducting, there's no income being generated. So you can deduct for Shabbos as well, as opposed to ihu. But if he's the one giving her a hard time, what happens in that case? We add to her ksuba. That looks like income. And you can't do it for Shabbos. Since she's getting supplements to her ksuba, michsi, it appears kischar Shabbos, like a Shabbos earning, which is us. We find one more difference between him and her. His amount is way greater than hers. I have one more question. What is the difference? Why do we differentiate between the penalty applied when he is the one being murdered and not living up to his obligations? In that case, we add to her ksuba, but a relatively minor amount, less than half of the moiredis, of when she's the one being moired against him. We deduct way more. So when he's the one giving her trouble, we add to the ksuba, but how much? Relatively little. And when she's a mered, she's giving him a hard time, we deduct 7 coins a week. That's more than twice as much as the amount that we penalize him when he's in the wrong. What's the difference? Amar Leisi tells him like this. His suffering is greater than hers. Say Lamat, go take a look. Mishuk shal zoynus. See what goes on with the immoral women out there. Who hires whom? It's the man who has a greater desire, so his tsar is greater when she's giving him a hard time. And therefore we penalize her way more than him. Davar achar, another way to explain this, by the man, the yetzer, if his desire is aroused, it is visible on the outside of his body, so it's uncomfortable and it's embarrassing. As opposed to by the isha, it's all internal, and therefore it's not as impactful. So therefore, when he's the one in the wrong, he's penalized, but not to the same extent as when he is suffering from her. Continues the Mishnah. Suppose a fellow makes an arrangement with his wife. He will provide for her needs, financial needs, mezainis needs, daily sustenance, by way of a third party. Suppose he's away on a trip, so he uses a shlish to provide for her. How much is he meant to provide? Here are the minimum amounts acceptable. You can't go less. Mishnei kabin chitin. They're giving her 2 kav of wheat per week for her to break her bread for her staple needs. Or another option, instead of wheat, there's no access to wheat, so he gives her barley instead, but a greater measure. 4 kav of so'irin, which is actually double the chitin amount. The only one who applied the so'irim option was El Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel Shaya Samach Edom. He lived near Edom, where they had a lot of so'irim. Perhaps we'll see. The Gemara will discuss this. What else is on the provision list? V'noisen lo chatzi kav kitnis, a half kav of beans, v'chatzi luk shemen, half a luk of shemen, v'kav gregorus, half a luk of oil, and a kav of dried figs. Or you want to develop alternatively, instead of the dried figs, a mana weight worth of pressed figs. If there's no figs available, poisiklu mosan peris mokam acher, he can substitute it using other fruits. V'noisen lo mit provides her a bed. Mapot provides for her a mattress. Machzelas. Machzelas is a harder type of mat, which is perhaps for the mattress, and the mapot is a softer mat, perhaps it's placed on top of the mattress. V'noisen lo kippah l'roisha, gives her a head covering, v'chagur l'masneh, a belt, u'min olim, and a new pair of shoes 3 times a year. Mimoid l'moid, every Yom Tov, you buy your wife a new pair of shoes. V'kelim shel chamishim zuz, and a new wardrobe worth 50 zuz once a year. It's an annual event, mishana l'shana, once a year. Now, when do you purchase it? You time it properly. You don't buy her new clothing during the summer when it's quite hot. She doesn't need new thick clothing. Nor do you allow her to wear just worn out stuff during the winter when she needs to be kept warm. Rather, you arrange it appropriately. You buy her the new fresh clothing during the winter time, so it keeps her warm and insulated. And she uses the worn out begadim throughout the summer when coverage is not so crucial. And ultimately the worn out begadim, next year's, last year's worn out stuff, she holds on, and the Gemara will explain why. What else does he provide for her? Once a week he gives her a ma'ah kesef for pocket change. Although perhaps he's separate the whole week, but come Friday night, he's meant to eat with her. Rashi says it's a leil oina, a time for closeness. Let's say he doesn't provide this extra pocket change. Then the extra supplemental income above and beyond the basic income, that belongs to her, because that goes to him in exchange for the coin. He's not going to give it to her. He doesn't deserve that. Now, let's speak about her as well. What is she meant to produce? What income is she meant to bring in? So there's a standard set amount for that as well. Mishgal chamesh slaim shesi. Shesi are the vertical threads in the loom. So she would typically produce that. 5 selah weight of shesi, Rabbi Yehuda. So Yehuda was set at 5 selah. Shehein, which corresponds to eser slaim begol. In Golul, the 5 selah worth in Yehuda was considered 10 selah because the selah in Golul weighed half as much as Yehuda. So 5 in Yehuda was 10 in Golul. Or alternatively, if she doesn't do the shesi, rather she does the air of the horizontal threads, which are easier to produce. So you need to do a greater amount. Mishkal eser slime erev Yehuda. If she's doing erev threads, it's 10 selah worth in Yehuda, which is double in Golul. Shein esrim slime begolul. Now this is standard for a typical situation. Suppose she is nursing a baby, we have to provide more. You make her work less, and you actually add more in terms of food and mezonos in order to provide for the baby as well. When are these amounts said? But should be Yisrael, that's the minimum for a poor person. But an upstanding, wealthy person, it's all relative to your abilities. This is just said as a bare minimum, of course. You meant to provide in accordance with what Hashem gave you. So let's start from the top. When it comes to chitin, you give her no less than 2 kap, which is meant to last for the entire week. How many meals do we have a week? Let's assume it's twice a day, so it's 14 meals a week. In those days, they only had 2 meals a day. So who's the Mishnah speaking according to? Who's the Mishnah? Who's the Manda Omar? That 2 kav can provide for 14 meals. Money must listen. Who's speaking in our Mishnah? It's not him. It's not Rabbi Yehuda Breika, but Rabbi Shimon. It's not following any of these shittas. This none. We have a Mishnah in Erevin. V'kama shiuri. How much food do you have to leave at the Erev to Chumen? So you go outside the city, you place an Erev, that becomes your Shabbos residence, which allows you to measure, to count 2,000 amos from there. So placing food in that location, you're considering that to be your home. How much food? Every person wanting to utilize the service of the Erev has to place 2 meals worth of food. How do we reckon, the meal volume? Is it a weekday meal or a Shabbos meal? There's a difference between the two. It's based on the shear of a Suda during the week, which is a smaller Suda. Shabbos, as opposed to the Shabbos meal, according to Rabbi Meir, Rashi says he was ruggled to eat more bread on Shabbos because, he had more dips and more supplements to the bread, so that would be good that he would have more bread. So according to Rabbi Meir, you don't have to work with a Shabbos measure, work with a weekday measure. The amount of bread eaten during a weekday meal, that is considered a shir suda. Rabbi Yehuda, he goes the other way. L'Shabbos v'le'lechayil. You work based on the Shabbos meal, not on the weekday meal. The truth is that both Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda were trying to be lenient on the fellow making the Erev. Rashi explains, according to Rabbi Yehuda, he would have less bread on the Shabbos meal because he had other dishes that were added, which weren't there during the typical weekday meal, which was a more basic staple meal. So in Rabbi Yehuda's case, the bread consumed on Shabbos at a Shabbos meal was less than the weekday meals, and therefore he pegged it based on the Shabbos meal. Rabbi Yehuda Breika Eimer, he'll come and give us a very defined set shiur. What is considered a maza in shtei sudas? He says like this: take a loaf of bread, kikar, halakuch bepunyan, which cost a punyan coin, right? You buy it using a punyan coin. You still have no idea how big this bread is. Oh, so you have to see the second part of the formula as well. So cost a punyan when. What is the market rate? Ma'arba in basila, when you pay a sela for 4 sa'ah of the flour. And Rashi explains, it ends up being a half a kav. This kikar, this loaf of bread, which contains 2 meals worth of bread, how big is that kikar? A half a kav. So briefly speaking, Rashi says because a seller has 48 punjain coins, and 4 sa'ah, which you buy with that seller, has 48 half kavs. Okay, so it's a pretty simple formula. Half a kav cost a punjan. And in that half a kav, according to Rabbi Yehuda Breika, you have mazayin shtei seudes. It contains enough bread for 2 meals. So let's just stop for a second. According to Rabbi Yehuda Breika, let's say the husband gives his wife 2 kav. It's just 4 times. It's 4 loaves of bread, each one only containing a half, 2 meals worth. He's basically only giving her how much per week? 2 kav is 4 halves of a kav. 4 of these loaves, each one containing only 2 meals worth. So he's giving you a total of 8 meals worth. It's not enough to get you by throughout the week. Through the week, which needs 14 meals. We're going to get to that in a minute. So our Mishnah, which contains that 2 kav of chita is sufficient for the entire week, doesn't work according to Rabbi Yehuda Breika's formula. Okay, we have another opinion in the Mishnah. Rabbi Shimon Omer, how much do you need for the 2 seudos of the Erev? Shtei yodos lekikar. Shtei yodos means 2 portions, 2/3 of a loaf of bread. Misholosh kikros lekav, when 3 loaves of bread are made of a kav volume of flour. So you have 2/3 of that loaf of bread. How big is that loaf? It's 1/3 of a kav. So according to him, a kav consists of how many meals worth of bread? Let's figure this out. if a kikar has 3 meals, because he's using 2/3 of a kikar for the Eruv, which requires 2 meals. So a kikar has 3 meals worth. Each kikar is 3, and a kav has 3 kikros. So kav has 9 meals worth of bread in it. Back to the Mishnah. Husband provides her with 2 kav. That's 2 times 9. That's 18 meals worth. That's way more than what she needs. So we're stuck. According to Rabbi Yehuda Kessler, way under the requirement. According to Rabbi Shimon, way over. That's going to be the Gemara's kasha. Let's just finish the Mishnah. This loaf that we're speaking about, half of that amount, is the shear for the house that has a nega. Rashi explains, if you stay in there long enough to eat that half of that loaf, your begadim become tamei. V'chatzi, half of that amount, lifsos hagvia, makes a person puzzle. If that food that he's eating, half and half of that loaf is basically a quarter, is food which is tamei. So the person who's eating that food can no longer eat truma. V'chatzi, half of that, basically an eighth. Rashi says that's a kibetza worth. Well, kabel tumas oichlan, that is the shear for tumas oichlan. According to some Rishonim, it means that when a food becomes tamei, that can happen even if it's a small tiny piece of food, but to transmit the tumah to others, you have to have a minimum share of a kibetz. Okay, bottom line is, back to the kasha. Mani, our Mishnah, which says that a person provides 2 kav for his wife for an entire week's worth of meals, whose shita are we following? Is it Rabbi Yehuda Kessler? Tam niavyan. In 2 kav, you merely have 8 meals worth. Rabbi Shimon, well, according to Rabbi Shimon, it's the other way. Tam nisri havin, you end up with 18 meals worth, which is way more than what you need for the week. La'olam, Rabbi Yehuda, you know what? Let's go with Rabbi Yehuda. You were mistaken. He gave us a formula. He says a kikar, which costs a punyan, when 4 sa'ah costs a salah. And according to your calculation, it ended up being that a kikar is a half a kav, right? As we explained before. It's wrong. Totally wrong. As Rav Chizda told us elsewhere, in response to another kasha, he explained Rabbi Yehuda broke his words as follows. That really, this kikar, which contains 2 meals worth, was not a half a kav. Because remember, the chenvani, the grocer, the baker, you see what happens is the farmer or the wheat flour dealer, what he does is he gives the baker the raw material. He sells them the 4 sa'ah for his seller. Okay, it's the first phase of the deal. Then the chenvani, the grocer, the baker, he processes that flour into bread, perhaps even using his own firewood. He takes a cut. He takes a third off that material. So ultimately, when he sells that kikar, it's missing a third. He took a commission. So true. If you work with just straight numbers, if 4 sa'ah is a selah, and a selah is 48 punyan, and 4 sa'ah has 48 halves of kav, so half a kav per punyan, 48 to 48. But the fact is he takes a cut, he takes off a third. So the kikar that he sells ultimately is missing 33%. So really, when we spoke about the kikar having 2 sudos worth, it was a half a kav minus a third. And that was 2 meals worth. But if you get back the third, if you go back to half a kav, it's 3 meals worth and a half a kav. So that's what we're going to do right now. Hachanami here as well, meaning in our Mishnah, she's not deducting anything. He's giving her the wheat straight out, right? No deductions, no cuts. I said tilsa. So you could take that missing third that the chenvani would theoretically take off. Should they allow you add to it? Basically what we're saying is that we're going back to half a kav. We were missing a third of that half a kav because the chemini took it off. But here now, nobody's taking anything off. So in a half a kav, you have really 3 meals worth. Right, the kikar of the chemini only had 2 meals worth, but because it wasn't a half a kav, it should have been a half a kav based on raw material value. Half a kav of tvua is worth a punyan, but he took off a third. But if you restore that third, you end up with more than 2 meals worth, 3 meals worth. Right? You added a third from 2 to 3. I see tilsa shadela, you add the third. So now, in a half a kav, you really have 3 meals worth. Multiply that by 4, because in the Mishnah was speaking about a husband giving her 2 kav, it's 4 times a half. So 3, 6, 9, 12. So you're good. But you're not good yet. It's only 12. And she needs more than 12 for a whole week. Akati, tarti, sri, haven't you stuck by 12? Answer, oichelas imoy leili Shabbos. Remember, the Mishnah says she eats with him Friday night, so she saves on that meal. Well, that works if you say achila means literally she eats with him, she saves on that meal. We're going to see later. Some say achila means interaction with him, so she's not really eating with him. Then you're back to the kasha. V'oid, another kasha, obvious kasha. So you gained 1 more meal. Tleiser havin, at most she has 13, she doesn't have 14. Ella, here comes another pshat. Could the Amr of Chizda say man mechzel lechenvani? He said Chizda had another approach as well. He says, oh no, the lechenvani, he deducts a half. So ultimately the kikah that he sells, the loaf of bread that he sells in the store is really half of kav, which is worth a punyan. A punyan is for half a kav. But ultimately, after all his cutting and commissioning, he only gives the fellow a quarter of a kav. Half the loaf goes by the wayside. It goes to the chemvani. So in that quarter of a kav, you have 2 meals worth. And now Mishnah, that's not applicable. Nobody's deducting. Nobody's taking any cuts. So you can restore that half. Right? Half of that loaf. Which takes you from a quarter of a kav back to a half of a kav. So for a quarter of a kav had 2 meals worth, half a kav has 4 meals worth. You take that missing half, you put it back. So a half a kav has 4 meals worth. And he's giving her 2 full kav. So it's 4 times half. 4, 8, 12, 16. So you're good. She has more than enough. Well, before we get back to the numbers, we have a discrepancy in Rav Chizda. Here he said the chemvani deducts a third. There he said he deducts a half. How's that? Kasha the Rav Chizda. We have a kasha within Rav Chizda. Like kasha, the answer is all depends on the arrangement, in this specific circumstance. Sometimes the grocer has more expenses. For instance, if the grain supplier is not providing with firewood, so in that case he deducts extra for that. But if the wholesaler is providing with expenses like the firewood, in that case he only deducts for his work, which is a third. That's the difference. Haba Astra, here we're speaking about a place, Dihavit Tzivi, that they provide him with firewood, so his commission is less. Haba Astra, the Loyavit Tzivi, or we're speaking about a place where they're not providing with firewood, so he has to deduct a half. Okay, back to the Mishnah. So we said, really the kikar is a quarter of a kav. And in that kikar we have 2 meals worth for the Erev. And now Mishnah gives her 2 full kav, that's 8 times that loaf of bread, right? Because the kav, we said, the kikar is a quarter of a kav. So 8 times that, 16. Perfect. Yachi. But then we have a kasha. It's still over. Shitz Rihavin ends up being 16 meals, which is more than what she needs throughout the week. The answer is, come on, are we following Rabbi Chidka, Shitz Rabbi Chidka, famous Shitz Rabbi Chidka, the Amar, Arva Suda is Chayiv Adam Lachal B'Shabbos. Here's the Gemara on Shabbos. Machlekes, the Chacham say we have 3 meals on Shabbos. Rabbi Chidka learns from Psukim, we need 4 meals. Is that why you're giving her the extra meal? So basically it's 16 because the first 6 days of the week she needs 2 meals a day. That gets her to 12 plus 4 on Shabbos. So the Mishnah here is following Reb Chidka, which is not really, the halacha l'maisa. No, afilu teim rabbanon. This could work even according to Shittas Rabbanon that a person only eats 3 meals on Shabbos. Why the extra meal? Dal chada, deduct 1 la'archi parchi for the long-term guests, the short-term guests. She has to feed some visitors as well. That's why she needs an extra meal, and the husband has to give her for that meal as well. So bottom line is, according to this approach in the Gemara, our Mishnah, which contends that he gives her 16 meals worth, is Rabbi Yehuda Breika. And we worked out the calculations perfectly. 2 kav provides for 16 meals worth of bread. Why 16? 15 should be enough. Right? 12 for the 6 weekdays, 3 more for Shabbos. The extra 1 is for the visitors. Oh, now that you've come to this point, that has to provide for her guests as well. Well, then we can take a different approach as well. Afilu teim Reb Shimon. Let's take on the other option. Our Mishnah can follow Reb Shimon as well. Reb Shimon was the one who concluded with us that the 2 kav is really 18 meals worth. I'll tell you why she needs so much. For the guests. L'Rabbanan, according to Shittas Rabbanan, that a person typically needs 15 meals a week, 12 for the weekdays and 3 for Shabbos. So 15 is enough. Why do you need 18? Dal plus. Deduct 3, L'Archi Parchi for the guests. Rabbi Chitke, according to Rabbi Chitke, who requires another one for Shabbos, so it's 12 plus 4 for Shabbos, that's 16. Dal Tarti, L'Archi Parchi, how do we get to 18? Because 2 are for the guests. Rabbi Yossi, L'Pasak So'erin V'chulu. Tanakama says, if there's no wheat available, he gives her barley. And Rabbi Yossi says, well, only Rabbi Shmuel, who lived near Edom, gave her the barley. Asks the Gemara, what does that mean? Only in Edom area do they eat barley, throughout the rest of the world, they don't have barley? What do you mean to say? He meant like this. Tanakama said, by wheat it's 2 kav. By barley it's double, it's 4. Rabbi Yossi responds, this double formula, that's only Rabbi Shmuel, because he was situated near Edom. The only one who contends that the shear of barley is double the amount of chitin, that's only El Rabbi Shmuel, only by him, because he lived he lived near Edom, because in Edom they grow poor quality barley. So in order to substitute properly for the 2 kav of chitin, you have to substitute it with 4 kav of so'er, which gives it the same, sustenance. But typically you don't have to actually double the so'erim over the chitin. So what did we learn today? We started with the sugya of moirid and meredis. We seem to have a kasha between Shmuel, who says that by a shemer yavam we don't get involved, and the brisa which says you do. The Gemara's maskana, we concluded, was that he's the one asking for yibum. The brisa, which contends that we support his claim, is Mishnah Rishona, when Yibum was a full recommended option. Whereas Shmuel speaking nowadays, when Yibum is not really a recommended option, we can't enforce it. We find some differences between him and her. When he is given a hard time, and then we deduct, we deduct from the Kesuba, even for Shabbos. And the reason is because it doesn't look like Schar Shabbos. He's not adding, he's not gaining anything. Whereas when she's having a hard time, we add to the Kesuba, we can't do it for Shabbos, lest it look like Schar Shabbos. We find one more difference between the two. In this case, we give him so much more than in her case, and the answer is because he is being inconvenienced way more than she is. We had a fellow who was supporting his wife by way of a third-party arrangement. The Mishnah gives us a full checklist of supplies that he needs to provide per week in accordance with her needs. All the best to you, and Hatzlacha Rabbah.